Hello, and welcome to episode 11 of African Battle Royale. This is going to be the second to last episode, as always. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Rwanda will be invading East. So, Rwanda has finally come at odds with the Dark Blue Alliance. It comes to a head right now. Either Rwanda will triumph, or the Dark Blue Alliance will triumph. Of course, though, Rwanda is not the only one in their coalition. Somalia will quickly join the coalition against the Dark Blue Alliance. They've hated the Dark Blue Alliance ever since they left it. That's kind of the reason they left it, and Rwanda will fairly quickly capture this territory that Tanzania took out of spite after the last war. Somalia will send a separate mission down to capture Zambia's territory in Madagascar and take it all. This really angers Zambia, who starts sending a lot of their troops up and finally starts their own invasion into Rwanda, which is pretty successful at first until it gets halted. Guinea-Bissau will be invaded, but what has bolstered their borders surprisingly well and is not invaded as quickly as they wanted, and Mauritania's army will get bogged down in Guinea-Bissau and not be able to help for the rest of the war. Congo will now join the Red Coalition, and this is basically just a coalition of countries that think the Dark Blue Alliance is too powerful. However, as soon as they join it, Zambia will quickly take a lot of the territory they'd been planning to take. They were also planning a separate invasion of Congo. However, the joining of Congo into the war will allow for Rwanda to take a good portion of their territory back, like so. As the front line slowly starts to even out over here, and Congo will make the strategic decision to withdraw all the way to here in order to basically have a more stable front line. But Somalia is invading into Tanzania, and this front of the war is not going very well for the Dark Blue Alliance, as Rwandan troops capture Lake Victoria, and Rwanda has a navy, which is surprising since they've been landlocked this whole series, but they do have a navy. It's been mostly operating within these two lakes for training, but they've basically been planning to capture Lake Victoria, and so they've been basically transporting, not like aircraft carriers, obviously, but like mid-sized battleships with them, like behind the front lines. And so now they put them in Lake Victoria, using some of the captured ports along Lake Victoria that Tanzania had. And very quickly they capture all of the land around Lake Victoria. This is one of the most impressive military operations that I've ever showcased on my entire channel. But Rwanda was able to do that, and it wasn't like that effective in the war. Like Rwanda probably could have just invaded, but it was impressive. It was very impressive. It was unlikely that it was able to happen. They used some of their navy in this lake, which is not Lake Malawi. I believe this is Lake Malawi. But this lake, Tanzania not doing very well. Zambia is ignoring their Madagascar claims, which is going to lead to Madagascar declaring independence from Zambia, officially joining the anti-coalition, invading into Tanzania to try and take them out of the war, but Tanzania is stubbornly resisting. Guinea-Bissau in the west is mostly fallen by now, but there's still some resistance, and Mauritania refuses to get involved in the wider war until Guinea-Bissau is taken out, which might be something that they're doing intentionally, who knows. The Dark Blue Alliance is also winning against Congo, who had basically expended most of their military after the last war, and also reduced their military size, and because of that, they are suffering. And their suffering is leading to Rwanda suffering as they decide to withdraw all the way to here to have a better foothold. But Somalia is slowly but surely invading into Tanzania, capturing some islands. I'm not sure where the Tanzanian capital is. I believe it's Dar es Salaam, but I don't know where it is. So I'll just leave it for now. But Madagascar troops will be pushed all the way off of the coast, and Tanzania is finally doing well as they recapture these islands and start invading into Somalia occupied territory, taking some of the southernmost parts of Somalia proper, as well as re-establishing a connection to Lake Victoria, although it's quickly lost as Rwanda had really done a good job of keeping their navy there. All of a sudden, bombing runs are conducted by Togo that go over Congo, and paratroopers land in the northern parts of Congo and start basically occupying this port, allowing for more troops to be transported in, just as Mauritania finally finishes up Guinea-Bissau. Let's just say Congo is not doing very well, as their entire coastline is basically just crumbled, as well as their entire state, to be honest. They kind of are now stateless. Their dictator has fled and is nowhere to be found, although he's probably hiding in Rwanda. But Nigeria will officially join the war once Congo starts to collapse, and will start liberating a lot of the Congo, allowing the Congolese government to return from Rwanda, where they were in fact hiding out, and starting another front line between Nigeria and Togo that Nigeria was more ready for than Togo, because Togo had spent a lot of their military over here. But Morocco is ready to start punishing Nigeria, so they will invade through the north. However, what they don't realize is that Egypt is also planning to join the Red Alliance, just not yet. But the Dark Blue Alliance will not give up, as Madagascar is landed on by Zambian troops and quickly captured and reintegrated into Zambia. Nigerian troops do invade into Togo, but on the contrary, Lake Victoria just got basically all of its ships blown up by Tanzanian air raids, and consequently the armies, of which Rwanda's is much weaker, are the main factor, and Tanzania is absolutely cleaning house with Rwanda and Somalia, although Somalia is holding back better than expected. Nigeria, on the other hand, is winning against Togo, as they've basically taken all of their country and they finally force them to surrender and allow access through their country, so that Mauritania starts being invaded by Nigeria, as Nigeria has managed to hold off Morocco, and Egypt has just joined in the war officially. They were already basically in the war, helping out the Red Alliance, but now they're officially in the war, quickly taking out Tunis, which Morocco hadn't defended well enough, before starting to invade into this Moroccan front line. And once this happens, Morocco fully retreats from most of Nigeria, and Africa is basically under two separate regions: the north, which is mostly controlled by the Red Alliance, and the south, which is mostly controlled by the Blue Alliance. Speaking of the Red Alliance, Mauritania will lose access to Guinea-Bissau, which starts getting liberated, but its government doesn't exist, so it's just like a new government is set up that is loyal to the Red Alliance and not to Rwanda. But overall, Mauritania is not faring very well. And although Morocco is able to retake Tunis, which you can see because it's on screen, Morocco will withdraw from any claims they might have in Nigeria, and seeing the way the war is going, will just fully withdraw from the war. Sudan's entrance into the war will basically spell the end for the Dark Blue Alliance, but they don't realize it yet. As Madagascar, it fully rebels again, and will start invading, and Somalia will start invading into Tanzania. Rwanda will have a massive operation to recover most of their territory, as the front line starts getting massively pushed back. Congo finally sets up a new government, which is much more stable than the old government and is actually democratic. Botswana's new government decides to leave the Dark Blue Alliance, and Eswatini officially joins in on the Red Alliance, agreeing to give Madagascar the territory they have in Madagascar in exchange for being friendly with them. And they'll start invading, but they will quickly actually be crippled by the Dark Blue Alliance because they were super weak. So they're just hoping to get to the land after the war. For now, though, Tanzania is not feeling very well. Their capital is definitely gone. I doubt Dar es Salaam is anywhere in the current borders of Tanzania as they stand. And the Tanzanian people the Tanzanian government is probably in exile at this point. The Tanzanian military isn't anything, so Tanzania is gone. Now it's just Mauritania and Zambia, and Mauritania is continuing to lose, but they have a dictator who basically just refuses to surrender. He is living in Morocco and commanding the military, so Mauritania is mostly gone. A massive revolt in Congo will allow for like half of Congo to get freed relatively quickly, as it takes maybe a year or two before Zambia starts getting seriously threatened. But Eswatini will be withdrawn from and start invading, and troops will invade through the Tanzanian territory they have. Botswana might or might not be allowing for logistics, but eventually Zambia will have their dictator flee and will never be found. So Zambia is out of the war, and then these guys are out. Cape Verde also gets captured. So let's see how this ends. And after Guinea-Bissau leaves Rwanda's alliance, Africa is a continent completely devoid of alliances. That's insane, given how prevalent the Dark Blue Alliance just was. Let's do one more event then on the episode. Guinea-Bissau will be invading northeast. Morocco was given an easy treatment after the war because they surrendered, but Guinea-Bissau doesn't think that should be the case. So they start invading into Morocco and then realize that was a really dumb idea because large portions of their Mauritanian population start rebelling, and they really should have been prepared for that, but they weren't. They just kind of used that population to continue invading into Morocco. All of a sudden, Nigeria joins the side of Morocco, which is like, weren't they just in a war against each other? They are, but no one really thinks Guinea-Bissau should have done that. That was a kind of a silly thing to do. And these rebellions from Mauritanians are getting out of hand, and these two guys are worried about a Mauritanian government coming out of it. So I changed it to purple, so you know it's actually a different side. But anyways, the Blue Alliance is really worried about Mauritania coming back because they really don't want that to happen. And you might be like, wait, why wouldn't Morocco want Mauritania to come back? And they kind of just, they were in an alliance because they had to be, but they didn't really want to be. Either way, the Mauritanian rebels are crushed. And then they basically tell Guinea-Bissau, surrender now and give us a bunch of your territory, or else. Guinea-Bissau says no, and they are wiped off the map. What a strange top 10 this is. But you know what happens when we get to the top 10. When there are 10 countries left, that means there's one episode left. So I'll see you next time for the finale of African Battle Royale.